We got a couple of things we want to make sure you guys have a grip on just before we get into real sales and things that you guys can implement on an every single day. Okay. Now, the very first one I felt like was something that helped me when we were figuring this out, probably like 4 years ago. Me and Tyler were just, getting this thing started. And I was producing. So I was able to say, hey, Tyler, this is what's going on, get started. And then we both going through this journey. And then we started to realize other people were just thinking they're really good. And some people are thinking they're better than others. But there is actually this constant that he kept from his previous like entrepreneurship, past. I was like, wait, that actually makes sense now that I think about it with what I'm doing now. But it's the four phases of where you're at. But see, if you wanted to, I feel like this is going to help you guys. For me, it's helped me always know where I'm at in the business on how to become better. And then you're going to be able to apply this literally down the road in this call.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, so first section here, guys, is just going to be a mindset, just because we felt it's really important that you guys have the right mindset approaching the business. Because if you have a bad attitude and you're going into the phones, people are going to be able to hear that. And I really do think it does affect your income. You do have to have a good mindset. We deal with a lot of rejection. And so when you deal with a lot of rejection, you got to figure out how to deal with it, or you're going to let that rejection deal with you. Right. So, so getting good at having a good mindset. So one thing that I learned a while back that I think helped me a lot was going to be knowing where you're at when you get started. Okay. So I'll give you guys an example. So like when I first got started, and Diego was there, I was super excited. I showed up to the office my first day. I was like, let's freaking do it. I've never dialed the phone. We're going to get on the phone. We're going to crush this thing. Give me the script. They're all going to buy it. Give me it. And I jump on and I start dialing, and I dialed all day long. I swear I dialed all day long. I booked 0 appointments, right? 0 appointments. I worked my all day. Okay. And then I went to Diego and I was like, dude, like, I thought I could do it. Like why don't they want it? And so there's going to be four phases on like learning and getting and like mastering something. Okay. So the first phase, this is where I was at. I was unconsciously incompetent, right? Unconsciously incompetent. So if you guys are writing this down, that's what you want to write down. Unconsciously incompetent. That just means I don't know that I'm bad, right? I don't know that I'm bad. Okay. That's where everybody starts. So when you first get on the phone, you do something new, you feel like you're like, I don't know, like it could be anything. It could be like, you're a kid trying to tie your shoes, right? You're like, you don't even know that you're bad, right? So now, after my first dial day, I go back to the office the next day. I go, I've worked all day. I didn't make any sales. I didn't book any appointments. Now I know that I'm bad, all right? So that's going to be the next phase. So number 2, now you are consciously incompetent, right? So now you know that you're bad, right? Which is a better spot to be, because now at least you know what you need to work on. You can get better, right? So it's better to be consciously incompetent than unconsciously incompetent, right? So moving on to that second one, so consciously incompetent. So relating it to the business, it's like, well, when I'm dialing, they already said they already have it taken care of, right? Or they already said that, whatever, they don't remember, right? And you're going to have to figure out how to deal with that, right? And you're going to have to learn those things to get you to the next phase, right? Which is going to be consciously competent, okay? That just means you really have to think about it, but you can do it, right? So for us, that's like a script. This is the way I would think about it. Because like, so you're consciously competent. Now you have a script, or you have like your rebuttals like written down. So you get that rebuttal, you go back, you read off on it. Because now you're like, oh, I know I'm bad. I know I need to do this, but this rebuttal is going to be able to fix the problem, right? But I got to really think about it, okay? After you put in enough reps on that, you're going to eventually get to the spot where you are at the basically the best. Mastering something is unconsciously competent. So you don't even have to think about it, right? It's like when I do my telesales now, like I don't have a script, right? I don't have to have the rebuttals in front of me. I don't have to read from any, like I know exactly what I'm doing because I've done it so many times, right? And it's like a second nature, right? So, and this can apply in a lot of different ways. Like this could be, maybe it's just like booking the appointment. You're consciously competent, but maybe in the home, or if you're going to go in home, or you're going to do like an actual, like presenting something, maybe you're consciously incompetent and you like know that you're bad. You're like, I know I need to work on some stuff, right? So what I would say is just like figure out where you are in the business, and really be real with yourself, and figure out kind of where you're at. And then that's going to help you kind of decide on what to do to move on to the next thing to get to you where you're at least consciously competent so you can actually do the job.
Correct. And another thing too, guys, is sometimes like I think I loved how Tyler was definitely, he's like, dude, I just thought I was going to be really good at this, but then I ended up just not being really good at it. I think because he had that mindset that he already knew, he's like, no, I'm starting to realize because I've seen other things before. He did music before. So there was a time where like, you know, you just suck at making any music. You're like, dude, I don't even know how to get any good. You know what I mean? And then you get better. Just like how he explained, I found it really valuable for me to be able to relay that to other people because I was just maybe a step ahead, but I didn't know how to explain what I had to figure out. And so for me, that was super valuable. And I felt like I wanted to start the call with letting us, you know, hear that because I felt like that's just going to be helpful too, to know, hey, maybe I have to focus on what these guys are saying with these next couple of things in terms of like the sales, because it's the truth. And we're going to make sure it's really easy. Now, the other thing about mindset, because, and I think that's a great point, Tyler, is like why mindset is so important, because you can, we actually wanted to talk a lot on longevity, being in the business for now 4 or 5 years and why we love it, you know, because I think one thing is we've always had like end in mind, like what are we doing on a daily basis? And I think a part of that is going, you know, having a healthy mind, right? Like going to the gym, having something that you're, and we want it. And what I want to do is give you guys tangible things that you could probably start doing like tomorrow. And whatnot better than some of the actual, I have not read many books, honestly. Like since I got out of college, probably like, I don't know, maybe like 5, which is like for some people would think maybe I read a bunch of books. I read a lot of different things within books. I read the Bible pretty much like try to every single day. But we have 3 books that I felt like were going to be really impactful that have been. I know me and Tyler through our time, we're like, dude, did you read that book? But there's 3 books. The first one, if you guys want to write this down, and I actually have them all at the end, I'll just show you a screen. You can screenshot it, but it's the compound effect. If any of you guys have read it, maybe drop a compound in the chat. But the compound effect is one of them, and we'll talk just briefly on what we got out of it. Number 2 is the power of one more. Both of those books, so Compound and the Power of One More. And honestly, the less people that have even put it in the chat, I'm really excited because if you guys find value in it, I think I'm like, it's just one, I'm a guy that doesn't read much. And then I started reading the Compound Effect and I was like, holy smokes, I should read it. But basically, I'll just talk about that one. And then Tyler, maybe you can talk about the Power of One More. And then the last one is the Bible, guys, and just kind of a good, you know, we just need to get better every single day. And so just giving you guys tangible things that maybe could guide you in the direction. And think about this too, from where it's coming from. 2 guys that have been doing insurance for the last 4 years and plan to for the next 10 years, right? And forever. And those are the books that I feel like are great. So if that's someone that you maybe want to be like, right, or you're in that same, you know, trying to get better in that same avenue, I always wanted to know, like, what is Sean's books? What did he read? You know, and so that's just what I felt like was something I wanted to give you guys is the compound effect, and I'll put it up here in just a second. But what the compound effect talks about, it's kind of like selling an IUL almost. It's like it sells itself when you start to understand the power of compounding, like compound interest. You know, it's like when I continue to go to these calls at the very beginning, I had no idea what the heck was even valuable about it. I like didn't even have a relationship with anybody on the call other than Grady let me know that this group was going to give you consistent training. And I was like, what's the training about? And as it continued to compound, I started to hear other people talk about things that we talked about on the call, you know, like an annuity sale or a IUL, or even mindset on how to talk to someone about something that you're overcoming at the moment. But the compound effect, I realized it talks about 3 different ways you can go. Some people are just barely working out. There's an average guy who's living his life average, and there's a guy who's just doing a little bit more than others. And then when you compound it over time, you start to become someone completely different because you've just added so much time to it. Okay. And so that one has been a book that's changed how I even look at my money. You know, when you start putting in $20, it compounds like crazy. And I think the pendulum of time kind of goes faster the older we get. I just heard this from like a guy in the sauna the other day, but I'm like, holy smokes, that's actually kind of cool in a weird way, because now you can compound really fast. Like whatever you start doing, I feel like older people are like able to get really, really ripped. At least the gym I'm going to, they're like all super ripped. I'm like, it's because time's just going super fast. You're just dialed in, you know exactly what to eat. It's just compounding like crazy for who you're becoming. And I think we always have to notice, this is the one thing that the book talked about, was just you're already compounding anyways. And so what are you compounding, you know? And so that was super fire for me. and I'll put it at the end here for you guys to see. But Tyler, I know you obviously love that book. We talked about it for a while, but if you want to talk about The Power of One more, because I know that one was just as good too.
Yeah, definitely. I think too, guys, like something to think about. It's like it's good, and it's like what Diego said. It's like you're already going to be, you know, consuming something or compounding something, so you might as well just be doing like the good things, right? Over time. And so the power of one more is really good. It's an overall like kind of I think like good mindsets to have. It talks about like emotions. It talks about a lot of different things that I think all of us can benefit from. I'm not going to get too much into it, but it's Ed Milet. If you guys don't know Ed Milet, that's like my guy. I'm always listening to his podcast and training, and whenever I'm in the car, I'm listening to him if I'm not listening to the trainings and stuff like that. So I love Ed Milet. If you guys haven't heard him, please go listen to him. He's going to help you just take it to another level with your whole mindset. So yeah, Power of One More is an amazing book. It's like one of the favorite books, and Compound Effects, absolutely amazing. So awesome, guys. So cool. So I think that's all that, right? And then also, oh, here we go. And then also the Bible too, like reading the Bible. I've really got. I mean, I'm not here to try and push any like religion stuff on anybody, but for me, what's helped me, and I know what's helped Diego, is like reading the Bible. And over the last like year and a half, been a lot more into my faith, and some of the best leadership things, and so all the best lessons really I think in the world are in the Bible too. So and you can download that on your phone right now in the Bible app and start reading it like today. So yeah, really good stuff.
Oh yeah. And then if you guys are the one that we actually chose to read, and it just how it happened, I bought it at the same time as Tyler, is John Maxwell's Leadership Bible. And so it's super fire. It goes and breaks down the Bible and then gives you John Maxwell's version of it, which he's like a business coach. And so it's just great leadership. And I would definitely recommend that book for sure. Now, the next step is basically, I mean, Tyler, the quote that you had for us this morning, and then we'll go into these sales.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, we're gonna get into the sales, guys, but hopefully this is gonna help you guys out. So one thing, if you guys have ever heard of Jim Rohn, okay, he's one of my favorite people when I got into entrepreneurship before this, when I was doing network marketing. He really is amazing. You guys should listen to his stuff. But this quote always stuck with me. And it says, and I want you guys to think about who you are becoming in this process of becoming a professional in this field, right? So I love this quote. He says, "You can have more than you have because you can become more than you are," right? So unless you change how you are, you'll always have what you got, right? So the question to ask is, on your job or whatever you're doing, right, is what are you becoming, not what am I getting paid, right? So what are you becoming? Because if you can become more, and how can you become more? Well, it's coming to the trainings. It's getting around the people that have what you want, right? It's reading books. It's getting more in touch with your faith. It's all those things, right? So what are you becoming? And he's talking about in the perspective, 100%, Dom, growth over money, because when you grow, the money's going to come to you. The more value that you have to the market to give to them, the more it's going to come to you guys. And I can 100% guarantee you that. Just, being in the business for, 4 years now, coming up on 5 years next year, I didn't make really any money the first like 2 years, right? I really didn't. I was just trying to figure this thing out, right? And then as you go and some people are slower than others. I was slow, dude. I'm like super slow. I see these guys like freaking Dom's team comes in here and sells 30K their first month. I'm like, dang, I wish I could figure that out that fast. Dang. But you know what I mean? So, so the question is to ask you guys is what are you becoming? Because you can make a bunch of money and like you have money, but like you're not going to be able to keep that coming if you don't actually become more to be more to the market, if that makes sense, guys. So I thought that was really good from Jim Rohn. So if you guys want to check out Jim Rohn, he's another really good guy to listen to for like mindset stuff.
No, definitely. And that's why I wanted to share this with you guys, is to say, hey, if you're heading in the direction, I mean, you got to get your mindset right to then be able to have, I mean, what's the point of making 15, 20, 30,000? And honestly, that is amazing because it might solve some of your like current situation. But if you have a game plan to do this for a really long time, now it's actually really fun. And why your goal is now even better. I always like working with people that are like their mindset is right. They're literally going to now get into the business and they're going to move and excel, not just get in and have something fixed for them. they're actually getting right. And I always, me and Tyler, I think that's something we always try to carry ourselves on, is we really want to be able to help people in sales and in their loan leadership. And that's not even like, hey, we're like a personal coach, not at all. But we just do it by being an example. And so this is one of those things. Now, transitioning into sales, just so you guys know, I mean, this is probably why we've been trying to get your mind right, so you can be ready, because Tyler is now, we've been able to help people now build 6-figure incomes. I remember at the beginning, I was like, wow, that's like, is that even possible? FFL does that like all day. As long as you stay in the business and start telling people about the business, you're going to help them like get to 6 figures. Like Tyler, it's so dope. Like I remember him struggling the first year. Second year, I'm like, well, dude, I'm trying to build my business, and there's only so much you can do for them. And that's why it doesn't make a difference, and that's why it's good to tell other people about it. But at this point, I think Tyler's just made a bid, hopefully going to have a home here real soon. And so that's just like the transition of where you can go from and having the right mindset. And so with that, a couple things we wanted to go over was basically knowing your plan. Because if you guys know your plan, literally, like, what do I have to do? Like, hey, coach, like, hey, what's my plan? Like, as soon as you get started, you should have 100% game plan. And now what I usually try to tell people, and I have a video on my YouTube that I try to say, hey, this is just the foundation of when we're getting into sales, like into sales with us. I remember telling Tyler, it was taught to me. It was basically, it's from Jordan Belford, but it's the straight line analogy, right? So it's the shortest distance between one place to the next. That's what he says, is a straight line. What that means is basically, what do I have to say to avoid any of the BS, just so I can get to the bottom line, not just so I can get a check, so I can do this effectively and not have to talk about any other like random thing that I don't need to, right? And so that's what we call just a straight line analogy. There's a straight line if you think about it. And now I want to cover this real quick, because then we're going to then go over and asking Tyler and he'll unbox literally the 1 through 9 like steps, that what we call at Prime Group is the straight line of what we do here with insurance. But the straight line, guys, means that if you're on the phone call and someone says something that's not what we're expecting, we get them back on the line because they're outside of the line, And so if I say, hey, giving you a quick call about a request that you made, and then we get through it, and then they're like, hey, but listen, I want to know like where you work. I'm like, that's perfectly fine, because at the very beginning, I did expect that in that situation, but I'm bringing him right back to the script of like, yeah, I'm an underwriter, so I'm trying to get you the information back to my script, which eventually, if you follow the script, and I don't have my own creative way of saying, I can tell you everything about where I work and anything that I may think of as a new agent, or because I'm experienced in sales, you're just taking a lot longer to get to the end of the line. And so if you follow the straight line that your manager has set for you, right, which they give you a training video, and I would honestly ask them, like I told you guys, I was pretty sus. And so it wasn't fun probably being my upline, because I was like, yo, so then what am I going to say? And it was just building me confidence to go and do it. But Tyler has literally laid out the 1 through 9 steps. I mean, he's in his second year, going to be doing 200,000 in the year. I mean, we implement it into our agency, which has helped multiple people as well. And so I just want to tee that up, because it's definitely something that I know has made it so skinny for our agents to just understand what are the things that I have to get good at. And so these are just 9 steps. T, if you want to share your screen and, kind of run through that, appreciate you putting that together.
Yeah, I got you guys. So, and I'm sharing my screen now. So let me know if you can see it here. And I'm going to be talking about too. Hold on one second. Let me make sure you guys can see my screen here. Can you guys see this okay?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, cool. So this is the appointment timeline now. And I know like the call was, in home to telesales, right? Because before this, I was pretty much doing all in home the last like 3 years, like doing this like full time. I was doing all in home. The business after COVID, it really changed to now the carriers can do text signatures and all this type of stuff. And so everybody kind of went virtual, and I was like on the very back end, like, no, like I felt like the guy who was going from like the corded phone to like the wireless phone. I was like, no, like I don't want to, like this is where I belong, right? But honestly, we got to adapt and we got to get better. So now I'm going to talk about either way, this appointment timeline all I did was I just tweaked a few things, going from in the home to over the phone. But I essentially do the exact same thing. Like, it doesn't matter. And this appointment timeline, guys, could be for a mortgage protection. It could be for a final expense. It could really be for anything, any type of lead. But this is kind of the order of operations that I do. So we'll kind of talk about it here. I'm not going to go super into depth because of every single thing, but you guys, if you guys want more in-depth training, I think we do have a couple trainings on these specifically on YouTube, some of the longer ones. So we have that on the Prime group page. You guys can go check that out, where I go in depth on some of these. But so we'll start it off with just the, now, one thing you have to know, just general things going from like in-home to telesales, you're going to need more leads and you're going to need more dials. Just because your closing ratio is going to be lower over the phone than in person. At least for me personally, like my in-home closing ratio is probably like 80-90%. And then over the phone is probably closer to like, I don't know, 40 or 50 or something like that, if I can get through a whole presentation, right? So you're going to need to do a little bit more work and a little bit more leads to get the same, I feel like, results. But it is a little bit less time consuming because you don't have to be driving out. You can just go on to the next call. So it's both got its pros and cons, but I love virtual. My business now is pretty much 80-90% virtual. I'll still do a little bit in home here and there if I have a client that wants to meet local, but pretty much all over the phone. So the first thing is the intro and the booking, right? It's the same thing. So because like I don't use a script, but if you guys understand these 9 things, and if you can do and get this across to the client, each thing, you don't really have to have an exact script once you kind of understand all these steps, right? So the first thing is going to be intro, so booking it. So that could be a mortgage or it's final expense. I do a lot of final expense, right? Just Facebook leads. And, so the intro, hey, Diego, what's going on? This is Tyler. Just getting back to you in regards to that request you sent over to us. Looks like it was looking at the information on the state regulated final expense programs. You listed down blank as your beneficiary, or you listed down blank as your date of birth. Does that sound right? Yep. Cool. Okay. So you go through the intro and the booking process. So now normally this step number 1 is where if you're in home, you're going, yep, so I'm going to be out in your area tomorrow, Wednesday. What works better? Now from here, for virtual, you're going to, instead of booking appointments, you're going to be doing a call to close with the final expense and with mortgage too. I know a lot of times mortgage people are like at work more, so you might have to book it for when they're home. But for a lot of final expense clients, I am always just trying to do call to close right then and there, because once I've had it a lot of times too, where they'll sound like they're really into it, but they go, oh, but I can't do it right now. Call me back, 4 days from now, and then we can do it then at this time. And as a new agent, right, I may go, okay, and let them control the conversation, book it 4 days, call them in 4 days, and they'll never pick up, and I'll never talk to them again, right? So speed to the lead is super key in virtual, right? So you have to, from when the intro call to like doing the appointment, needs to be as short as time window as possible. So that's one big difference between in-home and going virtual, is like you need to get like, so after I do the intro, so mine is something like, now, John, these are all after I qualify them a little bit, I go, are you smoker, non-smoker, you working, retired, disabled? And then I also get their beneficiary. I always get their beneficiary, and that leads me into the why. So I get their beneficiary. Okay, cool. So it's your son, John. Okay, perfect. And now, was your main concern taking care of costs, burial, cremation, blah, blah, blah. Get whatever they need it for. And so I touch on the why there. And then when I go to going into it, I basically say something along the lines of like, hey, so these are the non-medical programs. So all they're going to do, instead of having you go to the doctor to do any like, urine samples or needles or doctors or anything like that, they just have me go over the health questions with you over the phone. It just takes about 10 to 15 minutes. Go ahead and grab a pen and paper and just let me know when you're ready, right? I'll just assume the close, right? I'm going to assume go into it. Now that is what I would call like the intro and the booking portion of it. Okay. So I'm going to hit on the why once I have them get my credibility. So the why and the credibility can honestly be interchanged. Sometimes it depends. Like I'll maybe really dig deep into the why, and then the credibility, or I'll just intro it. I'll know who it's for, and then I'll really dig into the why, and then I'll go to the credibility. So, so digging into the why. Okay, so now let's say, because it's important, if the client says, "Well, I'm busy right now, I can't do it. I'm at the store or something." Like I said, it's going to be speed to doing the presentation from when you're talking to them. So, okay. So if a client tells me I'm literally at the store right now, like I can't, like I don't have pen and paper, like I don't, like it's not happening. I'd say, okay, cool. When will you be home? Like straight up. I just ask them. So, okay, when will you find yourself at home? You have like 10, 15 minutes. They'll go, if they try to book it out for the next day or the next day, I'm always way more busy than they are. So I'm like, well, I'm really booked up on those days. I'm just catching you right now because I'm just kind of catching up. Are you going to be home from the store in the next like hour? Like I'll kind of like push on it a little bit to try and do it sooner. Like I'm trying to do it like an hour from now, and if not an hour from now, like later this evening, I'll be like, and I'll have, so I'm always trying to do it same day. If not right at that time, I'm trying to do it same day, like later that day. If I have to book it for the next day, I will, but obviously, I'll try to book it as soon as possible. One key thing that is different when you're booking an appointment though, instead of in-home, because in-home, right, I can just pull up to their house, knock on their door, and, I can go inside their house, right? For this, they're just getting a call. So what I do is if they're at the store, let's say I'll say, okay, now can you write down my information for our call? Well, like I said, I can't write anything down right now. Okay, cool. Well, you get text messages to your phone here. Okay, perfect. I send them a text of of our appointment confirmation, and then I wait for them to get it. So I go, okay, let me know when you got it, and I make them look at it, and I go, okay, cool. Now, when we get off the phone, if you could just text me and just let me know, that way, I'll cement your appointment down. So I send it to them, I make them look at it, and then I make them text me that they got it. And then that usually will get your show rate a little bit higher for that. So I always do that.
And then I'm just going to add this real quick.
Go ahead.
And what Tyler, and just basically what I explained there a second ago was a straight line. And you see Tyler going through 1, 2, and 3. And basically just summarizing, that's the name of the game, is try to get them through 1 through 9. Basically every morning you come in and you get them through 1 through 9. Now I wanted to add this because you see, as he explains it, he was just explaining the very first half. And so he'll keep explaining it, but he's just trying to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and knowing how I can get through it faster. And now you're getting an in-depth of like real details of like, what does it take to get from 2 to 3? But me, as I help people just see what Tyler's doing, and I explained back to what I was saying about that straight line, I'm like, look, Tyler's on step 2. He's on step 3. So like when we have agents here at the office, I'm like, oh, yep, he's doing the credibility right now. He's sending them the information. And then, oh, they don't have the time, so he's got to book an appointment. So you got to stop right there. But what I wanted to add is, if anybody then stops you and says like challenges you in a rebuttal, one thing that we learned early on was neutralize. And you can write this one down. And this is like how I did the very beginning. I felt like a robot doing this. If like I said, hey, John, this is Diego calling you about the request, blah, blah, blah. Is this your date of birth? Yeah. And they're like, they say anything like, now I don't remember doing this. Neutralize. And this is the one. Step 1, neutralize. Step 2 was rebuttal. So I figure out what to say. So neutralize is like, oh, yeah, well, that's exactly why I'm calling. You have some go-to neutralizers, but it's neutralize, rebuttal, back to script. Now, there's obviously other ones that have came out, like ask, attack, or I mean, how's that one go? It's like, it's the AAA method. Acknowledge, ask, attack.
Yeah.
Right. And I find it the same. And I would get both of them down. Honestly, I use both. I like to acknowledge, oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. If you already have something like this in place, yeah, that's why people get this in place. Like acknowledge, ask, attack. Right. But so at any time when you're trying to get through this, you want to have a system of how you're going to get back onto the script. So you stay on that line. And what I used to do, to me, it was easier to be neutralized. Oh, yeah, that's exactly what I was calling. And then rebuttal. The reason why they have me calling is because, you just sold your home. And so they have me showing you the updated options for the mortgage protection. And now I have your date of birth is this. Back to the script. Neutralize, rebuttal, back to the script. And so that's just extra to, having a systematic approach to like, hey, if somebody said something, what did I say? I honestly had literally neutralizers on one piece of paper when I first got started. I had rebuttals on the other one, and I knew to get back to the script. Right. And so that's something we even have a video on, but I think it's important as Tyler's running it because he does this naturally, going through it. But what he's
Yeah.
doing, keep us straight with what we're saying is like, this is the steps. And so,
Mm-hmm.
keep it saucing. But I feel like that's,
Yeah.
I just want to explain that because sometimes they do try to throw you off. And what you're doing is you're getting them back basically to the script with the neutralized rebuttal back to script.
100%. Yeah. And that's really important too, because if you do that well, it's going to keep you going through the script. You're going to have more of a chance to get to the very end, so those are a few really good things there. Now, going to step three, really quick, actually, on the why. If I don't get a good why, I need to know. I won't move on to credibility until I know who it's for and exactly why they need it. Like, I want them to convince me that why they need it. Like, and you can ask them power questions. Like, I ask a lot of times, hey, did anything happen recently that got you kind of looking into these programs, or is this just something you've been thinking about for a little while? Right. The lady I had today, she was like, I've been thinking about it for a while, and honestly, my children's dad passed away last year, and it's just been something I've been thinking about, and I know I need to get this done, right? If I don't ask that question, like, now it's emotional. Now it's like, wow, okay, like, you need help, right? Now it makes a lot of sense why we're on the phone, right? So I'll always ask power questions like, did something happen that got you looking into this? Or is this just something you've been thinking about for a while? Gotcha. Okay. And if they're more vague, I just keep digging. They're like, well, yeah, it's been something I've been thinking about for a while. Okay, gotcha. Were you looking into more like burial, cremation? Were you looking to leave something behind? I was just looking to leave something behind. Okay. And were you looking to leave something behind? Like, did you have like, certain things you needed to pay off, or was it for a specific reason? Or I'll just really dig into the why, because the why is why people will buy, right? So it's like, I'm going to spend a little bit extra time on this because, if you can the goal is to basically get an emotional response in a way of like, okay, this actually makes a good understanding. Let me see if I can actually help you, right? So once we get that clear, which is super important, I'll go on to credibility. Credibility is super simple. If you're over the phone, I'd recommend you either get like a website built. I have like a little website. If you sign up for like different CRMs, they'll build you out a little website. That's what I did for mine. Or you can make like a little business card, electronic business card with like your face on it, your national producer number, and things like that, and just build credibility with the client. I mean, you guys probably all know how to build credibility, right? So I'm not going to spend a ton of time on that, but just so they can see something with your face on it would be helpful. And then number 4 is explaining the process. So I ask them, I say, hey, have you ever done something like this before? They say yes or no. Doesn't really matter. I'm going to say the same thing and I'm going to explain it. And this is exactly what I do if I'm in the home too. I have the exact same thing that I say, whether it's over the phone or in person. And I'll tell you what, guys, like, I do not get objections with the banking or the social hardly ever, honestly, over the phone. Like, I'll get them here and there. But if you do this step number 4, explaining the process really well, you're not going to get as many objections. So what I say, and I actually have a thing I can post in the Slack because I have it typed out on my script. I should have had it here, but I'll put it in the chat. But it's literally what I say every single time is, all right, guys. So what I'm going to do, John, is I'm going to go 2 to 3 minutes of some health questions with you. Okay. I'm going to do 2 to 3 minutes of some financial questions just to make sure, this is going to be something in your budget. It's not taking any food off the table or nothing like that. And then the last part here is just a couple of questions on your beneficiary, just making sure we have the correct information. God forbid something happens, the funds are being transferred to the right person. Does that make sense? Awesome. Now, if we can find a plan that makes sense for you, John, that you can get approved for, the carrier will need to know a couple things. The first thing that they're going to need to know is they're going to just have to verify that it's you that I'm talking to. I'm not talking to your neighbor. So you have some sort of like state ID, or do you have like a driver's license or something like that? Yep. Okay, perfect. So they're going to need that information, right? As long as we can find a plan that you can qualify for, that you want to proceed with. And then the second thing they're going to need to know, John, like I said, as long as you find a plan that makes sense for you, they're going to need to know however you want to pay for the plan. So most people set it up on some sort of auto pay with their bank. In about 2 to 3 business days, the insurance carrier will get back with us and let us know if you're approved. Does that make sense? Yep. So what you're doing there is you're just getting the rebuttals out of the way right now. So they're going to say, well, I don't want to give my social, or, oh, I'm not giving you my bank. You're not going to waste your time going through the whole presentation to getting to that point. But if you guys do a good job of having the why, and there's a good reason for them to need that, and you build your credibility and they trust you, when you explain the process, they're going to say, okay, makes sense. And they're going to move on. Right. So, so the, suitability sheet's the next part here. I mean, you guys can go through the suitability sheet. I mean, everybody can do that, right? Underwriting, have somebody help you with underwriting. I'm not going to really go over that, but you're going to fill out the sheet, right? You're going to figure out what product to sell them. Building value and showing options. I always just will send them the final expense benefit sheet. And that sheet is going to have all of the benefits of it, whole life. I send it to them. I read it over with them, and then I'll write down the options. Option 1, 2, and 3, highest option at the top, and then build the value from there on the options, right? And then now when I'm building the value, something I do that I think is a little bit different that helps me over the phone is legacy safeguard. If you guys are using this, or maybe you're not, if you guys so basically what legacy safeguard is, if you guys don't know, it's legacy planning services. So it comes with legacy planning guide software. It comes with archive. They have an app. Basically, it has end of life planning. So they have advisors to help with like funeral home support. If they need estate planning, they can find an attorney. Has support for survivors. It helps their beneficiaries with the insurance claims process. Advise them on bereavement travel, grief counseling support, and it's all free. So the way that I explain it to the client is that this is going to be something that their beneficiary, they're going to get 2 cards in the mail. One card is for them, one card's for their beneficiary. They're going to have this member ID number. Tied to that member ID number, they can call the advisors and they can plan everything out, where they want to go, how they want it done. Everything is pretty much all set up so that when something happens, all the beneficiary has to do is just call Legacy Safeguard, give them the ID number, and then they're going to go ahead and take care of it. So,
and guys, this is super valuable because Tyler's persistency in our agency is one of the best, better ones in the agency. And I know it definitely helps. And I'll just tell you guys a story about me and Legacy Safeguard. I was like, man, I had a client who was like, I just don't trust you. And I was like, and honestly, we were talking a while and we're looking at like maybe $200 premium, which to the IUL boys, they're like, yeah, whatever. For the FX side, we're like, bro, that's $200 a month, But I was like, she was like, how do I trust you? But she was local. So, we're in home agency, but I came by and she's like, someone else has already came by. I just want to make sure that my husband leaves me the money because he has an ex-wife that wants the money. Said that's actually exactly why they had this new program come out, and they probably sent me in person to explain it to you. I did it in person, guys, but at the same time, the value that it got, she calls me now and she's like, hey, I want to do this on Legacy Safeguard. I'm like, okay, call them. But it definitely does insane on retention. We're getting to our last 2 minutes. If you guys had any questions, bring it up now. I think it'd be great if you drop it in the chat. We'll just literally respond. But the only thing I wanted to end with for you guys is as you kind of figure out, am I going to get whatever you want to do? There's 2 things that I heard just recently that is going to make you better. And we can stop screen sharing T just so I can see them.
Yeah.
What I had written down is it's going to take time and effort, right? And it's 2 separate things that sometimes mentally we trigger them into like the same thing, right? And so like I'm in front of my office and I traded this much time, but then it's like, where was my effort? Which is like, where is my effort actually headed? And the way I was getting this lesson, I was like, this is actually really awesome because sometimes you're somewhere and like, where is your mind at? Like, where is your effort? And even in your business, when you're like today working in your business, like, is my effort in building and maintaining my business, building my business, getting production for my business? The difference between us and those that are like Sean and people that are making more is their time and their effort are allocated into a different place, just better structured for us than us, and that's why they're getting better results than us. And so that's why, to wrap it up, convention is literally where you're going to be able to get the insight of everybody. Like where is your time and your effort going? Those are the 2 things to me. When I heard this training, I was like, this is sick because it's so easy. It's just 2 things. And when you really focus on it, like I said at the beginning, sometimes we think it's the same thing because I'm here at the office and I'm putting effort into my business. But are you just here and your mind is like somewhere else on your phone? Like, get your effort to match the time that you're putting into it. When you do that, And I honestly, it's a no brainer. Like whenever anyone wants to do something hard, you put in a lot of time and effort, and then it results. But if you just put in a lot of time in this business and your efforts somewhere else, you're not going to get those results. It's both of them have to go hand in hand. But guys, I don't see any questions. That's what I wanted to end on. T, if you had any final thoughts. Honestly, another thing too, I want to say thank you guys for letting me host the call. Thank you, M, for letting me host this. I think this is a record month for all of us. And so that just means that people are getting paid. I'm just super thankful to be a part of this group and being able to lead this call.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's pretty much everything, guys. We have some trainings on the Prime Group YouTube page. We go into a little bit more depth on the stuff. But yeah, guys, I appreciate you all for jumping on here. Shout out all you guys killing it, crushing, breaking records. Let's do it again. And let's finish out the 2024 year strong, guys.